It's witchcraft.
Hey, it's 4:20 a.m. Hi, and welcome to episode 42 of the Stoned Witches Hour.
42, that's like the meaning of life, man.
That's right, life, the universe, and everything. And it's 4:20 a.m., our favorite time to get high and downright witchy and tell spooky, spooky stories to each other while smoking copious amounts of cannabis. So yeah, here we are at episode 42 of the Stoned Witches Hour. And this evening, telling creepy tales out of California, I'm your host, Layla.
And I'm high and I'm really getting into this meaning of life 42 thing. And I'm Chelle.
I'm high this evening too. I'm smoking some up weed. I looked it up and it's like 32% THC or something. It's called Wedding Cheesecake.
Ooh,
So,
right
yeah,
up my alley.
my lovely husband surprised me with this because we have so much going on this week. It's just a super, super busy week. And so he surprised me with a little bit of extra weed. I have a lot of harvesting going on. So we're busy over here.
Well, it's so funny. This must be like the week of opposites.
Oh,
So listen to this. You're going to love this. I can't grow anything. Cats and pigs. That's all I can keep
that's right.
alive.
You have a brown thumb when it comes to plants.
I do. I do. But I have someone I'm related to that has a super green thumb. So I had gotten, you know how on occasion in your store-bought weed, every here and there and now and again, you'll find a rando seed.
Yeah.
So that had been happening to me for a little bit.
You've been a seed saver since I've known you.
Oh my God, I am like the Armageddon queen of weed seed saving. I probably have strains from 20 years ago that aren't even findable right now, and I have a seed of it in a jar somewhere.
I have tried to get you to contact some of the bigger breeders because of that seed stash. People look for these old seeds all the time, and you have probably so many genetics just sitting on a shelf.
I do. I do. So anyway, so a few months back, so I had gotten some of my good Happy Valley weed that had some seeds in it, and I had saved them in a little jar, and then had passed them seeds on to this family member, and they said that they'd grow them and give us like half of what came about of it. So who knows what it is? It might have been wedding cake, or it might have been Gorilla Glue, or it might have been Endgame, is really kind of all I can.
A mixed bag.
Oh, and grape diamonds, I think I had some seeds of, so it might have been that too.
Nice.
Anyway, long story short, it's been a few months, and all of a sudden, this family member shows up at my house the other day and is like, "Oh yeah, hey, here's your ounce from that plant." I'm like, "Oh my God, I forgot about that. Thanks."
Nice.
So I didn't home grow it, but I offered up the seeds. So I guess I don't know if that makes me a co-grower.
Kind of. You're like a grow sponsor.
Not really. I didn't put any water on it.
You're like the producer of the grow, I guess. You're like
Or like the director.
The grow director. Not really, I guess. You're like the investor. You're like the grow sponsor.
Yeah.
Grow sponsor. There
More
you
like
go.
the sponsor.
I love it.
So I don't know what it is. I don't know what the THC content of it is. It is a little airy because it's homegrown. I mean, it's not trimmed like store-bought. I'm not complaining. Don't anybody think I'm a complainer. But it's very crystally, and it's got like those reddy orange hairs on it. So it's pretty, and it gets you high, and hey, it's free. My favorite price.
That sounds perfect.
So I don't know what I'm smoking, but I love it, and I'm high and I'm good.
Hey, that's all that really counts, right? And I love that there's a difference in trimming. You can definitely tell homegrown weed because we tend to leave on a lot of the sugar leaves that don't look as pretty. You'll get everything from people who trim super tight, just like store-bought, to people like my dad. Like I just recently smoked a whole bunch of I cured because I don't trust him to cure it, but I cured some of my dad's weed, and it is really, really shaggy. He even leaves on some of what I would call like fan leaves that have almost no THC, zero crystals. So he's kind of on the other extreme end where he leaves on what I would consider too much.
I'd say this was probably 80% trimmed.
Yeah, yeah. So most growers will fall kind of somewhere in that middle ground where they'll leave on some portion of these sugar leaves depending on their personal tolerance. I will still crumble off a lot of those sugar leaves because I just don't particularly like the taste of super leafy weed, even if it has a lot of crystals on it. So I kind of fall towards the a little bit cleaner, but yeah, you'll find people that fall into that range somewhere as growers.
Well, and I also think it's a patience thing
Oh,
or
fuck
like an
yeah.
OCD thing. Like if you're super OCD, that shit's gonna be high and tight. But if you're just kind of you're like me, you're just like, meh, good enough. I'll just smoke what's left. No harm, no foul.
Or if you're like me, by the time you get to plant six, you are so over trimming that there's an awful lot of leaf left on those.
But then if you get really, really high, you can kind of get in an OCD mode and be like, trim, 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 trim. See, what you need to do is you need to get me really, really fucked up with a good pair of scissors and just let me loose.
Oh, when you come out, if I can really get you out here in the spring, I'm going to have you trimming like mad. I have a beautiful set of scissors. They're curved, they're golden, they're beautiful, and they're set aside just for you.
They have to be curved. I don't know why, but it's a thing.
Oh, I know. My Shell gets the good scissors. I'm not giving you any cheap ass scissors. I'll give you the good curved ones. You got it. But
Nice.
I mean you have to do it right. I definitely roll a bunch of joints ahead of time because they're just easier to smoke while you're trimming. Plus I like joints. And make sure to have your tools there. I have alcohol and paper towels and lots of scissors so that I can wipe them down. Make sure to save your scissor hash. It's one of the joys, if there are any, of trimming. And yeah, got to have good music, hopefully good friends, some good podcasts, maybe. You just got to go into it knowing that the only way out is through, and you just have to make the best of your time while you're there.
I just think it's really funny that we're like total opposite. I'm smoking this like mystery homegrown, and
I
you've got
know.
like this 32 point something, and I'm like, whoa.
Right? I'm over here high as a kite on this fabulous wedding cheesecake. I picked it because it had three of my favorite things in it. Anything that says wedding, anything that says cheese, and anything that says cake is usually right up my alley. This one had all three words, right? And so I guess I am you. Holy shit. I picked it based on the name and the fact that it had 32 point something percent
Well,
THC.
recently when I was at the weed store, I had to buy something, and my sweet darling love was like, "Well, why are you picking that?" I'm like, "Because there's cheese in the name, and Layla always says buy cheese."
It's good. It's good. I mean, sometimes it tastes a little cheesy, but it's usually really, really good.
Yeah, yeah. My mystery weed, it's really good. I will say though, and I don't know if I've experienced this in a while. This is like a 90s side effect of weed, kind of dry mouth.
Oh, okay. There
I
are
feel like I'm
some.
very thirsty on this weed. Like I am ripping through, I love iced tea. I am ripping through tea like nobody's business on this stuff. I'm not sure if there's a correlation on, I don't know that whether it's a sativa and indica, high THC, low THC. I don't know, but this is like dry mouth weed.
Dry mouth weed. I love it. Cottonmouth is not my favorite thing, but at least you've got some good stuff there to drink.
It's just weird how sometimes some weed is like that and some weed doesn't give you that effect. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I guess it just depends on how it reacts with you. It probably indicates that it's a higher THC. That's the only thing I can find about that.
I'm
But
still loving it.
yeah, that's great. Honestly, like it gives me back in the day vibes too, because I didn't used to know really what I was growing. I grew a lot of bag seed, a lot of clones from friends, and we just called it ganja, whatever, it was green goddess or it was green crack or this is Mother Earth weed. And we said, okay, how are we supposed to know?
We had no clue. We were
No
talking
clue.
shit.
Nobody knows. I think it's really, really funny. I'll see posts all the time. Someone will ask me, they'll say, hey, what strain is this? And they'll send a picture of like the plant or the bud. And I'm like, that is cannabis sativa, Northern
That's the
Light.
Wonder Woman strain right there.
Right, that's right. Or whatever, because you can't tell by looking at it. There's no real way.
98% THC.
There you go. You hit the jackpot with that one. That's Yukon Gold.
I did want to circle back to our last couple of podcasts, and I wanted to point something out on a witchy note.
What's that?
I'm diverting from weed to witchy right now.
Oh, I love it. Okay, transition.
We're transitioning funny because we're in that transitional point of the year. Ha ha
Ooh,
ha, touche.
nice.
Did you realize there's this like big insurgence of people
Into witchcraft?
into witchcraft again?
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
love it. There was an insurgence, I'd say, what, early to mid 90s, and then here we are again. Good
hmm
stuff. Welcome,
Welcome.
everybody.
We have cookies.
I wanted to point something out that I've been reading some debates on online. I have not participated in said debates, but I've been reading about them.
Oh, tell me. I'm interested.
Samhain.
Yes.
So, Samhain, Halloween and Samhain are not the same thing, which we are all intelligent folk enough to know
Yeah.
that.
I mean, they have a few similarities.
They do.
And I would say that Halloween is derived from Samhain, but
Roots.
it certainly doesn't have the ancestral connotation at all.
Correct. Modern day Halloween is not the same.
No, not at all.
When you really look at it, it's based on like some astrological stuff.
Oh, okay.
Like 90 days, what is it? 90 days from the autumn equinox. Is that right? 90 days from the autumn equinox is the winter solstice. And then you subtract from that like 45 days, and then that's Samhain. So, long story short, Samhain is actually November 6th this year.
I've heard that it does kind of, it's one of those floating things.
Which made me laugh because I'm reading these and these people are debating it. And they're like, absolutely not. Samhain is on October 31st, no matter what. And I'm thinking back to our days in our old pagan community back in upstate New York. And if October 31st was on a Wednesday, folks, we were still doing that stuff on Saturday.
You're exactly right.
I mean, not that we were necessarily following that astrological calendar at all.
No.
We were more weekend folk, but there's so many new baby witches out there that think it's so rock solid that all of these holidays are set in stone on a day.
Well, I'm going to blow everybody's mind.
Blow our
here.
mind, blow my mind.
The calendar that we use right now was not in place when these people were celebrating the solstice. There was no such thing as October 31st to the Celts.
Mic drop.
That date, this calendar is completely made up, and it has been revised many times over the centuries. October 31st is Halloween.
Right. Trick or treating.
November 1st is All Saints' Day. Samhain, we do traditionally, colloquially celebrate on October 31st. It's easy that way.
But it's really kind of like a
However-
floating holiday.
Exactly. Much like the solstice is on or about the 21st. It's the 20th, 21st, 22nd, that kind of thing. The same goes for this type of holiday. The true actual day that the Celts would have celebrated as Samhain would have been calculated by whoever did that in the village and kept track of time. They would have done it by their harvest, by the seasons, and by the stars, not by the Gregorian calendar that freaking Julius Caesar helped invent.
And for all of our Southern Hemisphere friends, first of all, shout out, love you. But also, same goes for Beltane, folks. Like this hard and fast May 1st for us here in the Northern Hemisphere. No.
Right. I mean, do we celebrate that traditionally, kind of like having President's Day on a Monday? Yes.
Yes.
We do it like that because it's easy. But if you really want to celebrate having November 6th as the date this year when it is celestially and historically Samhain, like I said, it's not like the veil slams shut, people.
Right.
This whole time of year, the veil is very thin and it will kind of gradually thicken as the season wears on. But, celestially, November 6th is Samhain.
But I just kind of wanted to just touch on that because there's been a lot of online debates lately, basically since the quote unquote Halloween night. And I found it interesting enough that I wanted to mention because I know we have a lot of witch type folks, pagan type folks, Wiccan type folks that listen and follow. So I just wanted to point out that perspective, folks. If you want to celebrate it on October 31st, rock on with your bad self. But celestially, if you want to celebrate it on November 6th, rock on with your bad self.
And if you celebrate it at any time between there, that's fine too. Much like many traditions recognize that the new and the full moon, you have, what is it, 3 days? You know, is it 3 days before and 3 days after, or 3 days around the full moon? There's so many different ways to do it. The energy is still there. It
I
doesn't
feel like it's
dissipate.
like that Samhain vibe from like October 1st until like Thanksgiving.
I agree. I completely agree.
Like you still
And
got that vibe for like that whole almost 2 months.
you're still gleaning those last little bits. I just got some sunflowers out of my garden, just the other day. You're still getting those last little things out of that last harvest. It's not exactly over. Things are still dying and going back into the earth. And
I don't know about California, but right now in the Northeast, we're going through some like crazy ass Indian summer stuff, like
right?
75-degree weather. Like I love it, but it's so weird, but it's beautiful with the leaves, like the blanket of golden leaves on the ground, but like you can still wear a tank top and shorts.
The weather in California and the weather on the East Coast now is almost identical. You guys get a little colder at night, I think, but other
Yeah.
than that, we've been having almost exactly the same weather right now, which is so strange to me, but such a lovely time of year to kind of be starting that going within process. And I love that we've been given a little bit of reprieve, but at the same time, it's haunting because it's probably global warming. So I don't know how I feel about all of it. It's just a little bit of it's a strange liminal in between space.
But, it's still, there's something about the nighttime this time of year. And even with the warm days we're having right now, our quote unquote Indian summer days, you're still getting that eerie, crisp, the leaves are crackling almost where you think that there's someone walking, watching you in the dark. It's just creepier at night this time of year. And I don't know what it is. And I love it. I love it.
I agree. The full moon,
Blood lunar eclipse. It'll be at 5:06 a.m. between the 7th and the 8th, which is what?
wow.
Monday to Tuesday, lunar eclipse, and it's visible in North America.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this episode is actually filmed or was actually recorded prior to the full moon, but it comes out the day after the full moon. And as you just mentioned, there's a lunar eclipse on the full moon. And we haven't actually experienced it yet, but I'll be doing something that night. But while I was doing my research on the Mission Inn, I discovered a story in the same area. It was called the Riverside Bridge Monster. The Mission Inn is in Riverside, California. The Riverside Bridge Monster was reported by a man named Charles Wetzel. He said on the bridge north of the 60 freeway near the 215 and 91 interchange, I know where that is. I'll show you when you come out. This man said he encountered a, quote, green, scaly, pumpkin-headed monster with long, thin arms and claws that came out of the brush and clawed his windshield.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah, he said that he had run the creature down, and police said that there were scratches and green smears on the car. And this happened November 8th, 1958.
It's like the pumpkin head cryptid.
Right? But the
And
date,
that was probably astrological Samhain that year. Just saying.
right? That's possible. We could look it up. I just happened upon this cryptid story that happened on November 8th, 1958. The full moon is November 8th, and it's a total eclipse. So I don't know.
Let me ask you something. Did you ever see did you I know you didn't totally investigate this story, but I have to know. Do you know if there was ever another sighting of this pumpkin guy after 1958?
Yes, Riverside police were given a second report by a different driver the next night on November 8th that they saw a very similar creature. And then in the 1970s, people saw odd tracks, large, strange tracks near the bridge.
Ooh.
But then once the river dried up, no more sightings were reported.
Oh my God, it makes me want to go just put a lot of water there and see if it comes back.
Right? See if it like springs from the riverbed.
Right? Right?
But I will tell you that on November 8th, I will go to that intersection
Oh, yes.
on the blood moon, on the lunar eclipse,
Oh my God.
on the same date, 50 some odd, 55, 57 years later. I
Take
will
the
go
Ouija
there.
board we
I'll
made.
take our homemade Ouija board
Fuck
to
around and
that
find out.
intersection. Absolutely. See if I can find that pumpkin head cryptid. So that's just my little side note for November 8th and the full moon.
Oh my God. I love it.
Wild, right?
But yeah, I think it's gonna be it's like one of those like lunar eclipsey. It's only the second and well, the last total lunar eclipse of 2022. And thankfully we can see it here in North America, and our friends in Australia can see it, and a lot of our friends in Asia will be able to see it.
Wow. And this episode will come out right after that happens. So let us know. Did you do anything? Did you do any rituals for this event? Did you see anything? Did anything creepy happen?
So I kind of touched on Halloween and Samhain, and that led me to a story. Okay. Now, I don't have a lot of like personal stories or stories to touch on, but we're going to talk about UFOs for a minute. Ironically, to coincide with Halloween, the government had released some UFO reports.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I heard a few hints of that, but I didn't delve into it. I've been pretty busy.
I was a little busy, but I was also a little nosy. I believe in extraterrestrials. So I delved into some of this and I found some interesting stuff. Now, I fell upon a story from this man. He was a former Air Force fighter pilot who is now a commercial pilot. So, I mean, the guy's got experience, is the point. He
Yeah,
ain't just some Joe Blow.
he's been in the sky.
Yeah, he didn't just get his pilot's license here.
Right.
He's got experience. So this guy's baffled, and I watched this YouTube video. I didn't catch his name, but if you Google it, you'll find this guy's interview on YouTube. In the last 7 months, and you figure 7 months isn't a lot of time in the whole grand
No.
scheme of the history of time. In the last 7 months, there has been in the skies over anywhere from Missouri to above the Pacific Ocean. So, I mean, we're not even talking like a small little
No,
swath of land here.
that's quite a large area.
And I know it encompasses your territory, but I don't care. He has seen at least 8 UFOs
What? Just in 7 months.
between the Missouri and above the Pacific Ocean.
What?
Here's the weird thing, so we were talking about astrological stuff with Samhain.
Yeah.
It seems more frequent, or at least noticed more by him, that these sightings are happening pretty much always at the bottom, right below the Big Dipper. Like, I don't know what that means.
Oh,
So
whoa.
every one of these UFOs he has seen has either been at the bottom or slightly below the Big
The
Dipper.
Big Dipper. Ursa
Every single
Major.
one. Every single one of the 8 ones he's seen.
Ursa Major that points to the North Star.
I'm just telling you what the report says from the guy. I'm just saying. But yeah, I don't know what the coincidence is with it, with this gentleman always seeing it right below the Big Dipper, but it's odd to me. Like, okay, so you see a UFO to the north and then to the south, but like you are consistently seeing them basically in the same location.
Right, right. It's got to mean something. I'm sure our UFO followers will know. You guys tell us, like, what is the significance of Ursa Major? What's the significance of the Big Dipper?
Well,
Like,
I'm just
why?
wondering if one of their planets is one of those. One of the
Right.
planets in the Big Dipper could be their home planet.
I don't know. There's got to be, like, what solar system is out there? Like you said, that their planet? Are they coming from that direction? Like, what's the connection?
And this guy, between being the Air Force fighter pilot and being a commercial pilot, he's got some experience up in the air. And
Right.
he
He's
said,
not just some random person who's
right.
like, oh, hey, I saw a flying object in the sky. He's someone who knows what he's looking at in
Well,
the skies.
what he is seeing in the movements they are making, he says it is 100% impossible for it to be planes, jets,
No shit.
satellites, or things of that nature. Like, the guy's not dumb when it comes to what's up in space and what's around
Right.
there, like space garbage and all that satellites. And he says it's absolutely 110% impossible for it to not
Damn.
be either. He said he wasn't sure if it was being run by AI or biological, but
Wow.
essentially aliens, 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 whether they're AI or biological, in my opinion.
Damn. Damn. That's
So
wild.
they also had a recording. Part of this YouTube video interview with this guy was he had a very close encounter above LA one night. Um,
LA seems to be a hot spot. There was that whole battle over LA that we talked
yeah.
about.
So they have a audio recording of from his cockpit of him basically calling air traffic control, being like, "What the fuck?" And they're
No
like, "We get."
shit.
And you know what the girl says?
What?
Literally, she stuttered. She goes, all we can tell you is there's no military craft in the area."
Wow, no way.
But like crazy.
That's wild. I did just see a video of someone recording out their plane window as they were flying, and they saw a formation of those tic tac flying things. I'm
Yep.
not 100% sure if it wasn't stuff on her window, but it definitely looked like a formation of those tic tac things kind of flying not too far off the wing of her commercial airplane. Just a regular old passenger plane.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she has a video. I don't remember exactly. It might have been a Reddit board where I saw the link. It's probably on YouTube.
Actually, the YouTube video that I found, the interview that I found with the pilot was actually an interview that was broadcast on the Today Show, American morning talk show type show.
Hmm.
So this was actually put on a talk show,
So like on
and
the morning news.
yeah, the Today Show. So I will actually get Layla the link so that she can post it for you guys because it's very interesting because the government can say whatever, but these pilots, these folks up in the skies, why would they lie? What are they gaining?
Exactly.
One interview on TV. Like, is that really like you're not getting rich off one interview? What are they
Right.
gaining?
And these are people who have been in the skies for a very long time. They've been flying back and forth for military, for commercial, for passenger flights, for all of these different things. They know what they're seeing in the sky. They're not unfamiliar with this. And
Right.
so when they're saying something is unusual and different, that's when I really start to pay attention because, like I said, these men and women know what they're talking about and they know what they're looking at and they're creeped out. That makes me creeped out.
And that's the thing, I mean, if the people up there are in a panic when they're seeing it, what the hell do you expect me to do? I am gonna panic, okay? Because I think it is very naive of us to think that we're the only ones.
Oh,
But
I agree.
some interesting points that I would like to just point out about some of these, like I said, some of these reports are coming out, ironically coinciding with Halloween. Don't know why.
Yeah. This is a very interesting, eerie time of year.
But out of these 366 classified reports that they have now made unclassified, 150 of them are still unexplained UFO encounters. They're trying to say,
Wait,
some of
wait, wait, wait. How many reports?
out of 300 and 366.
366 reports, almost half of them.
Yeah, 150.
Wow.
Because
Wow.
some of them can be explained away as Chinese drones, or as like space junk, space garbage, or satellites. But there's still 150 that even the government cannot explain. And like there's some F-18 pilots that come across these objects hovering above the sea. Like, I still wonder, there was a movie and I don't even remember what it was, but I still wonder if there's the possibility that there's like some alien frickin' city under the ocean somewhere.
Ooh, I've often wondered if that wasn't an explanation for Atlantis.
These F-18 pilots, they're highly trained individuals. They're not crackpots just flying around, and they're seeing unidentified flying objects hovering over the ocean. For
Wow.
what? Like, what are they? What are they doing there?
Are they looking for Atlantis?
I don't know if I find it settling that the government's finally admitting it or more scary.
Super scary. Of course, it's scary. First, that they kept it secret or tried to keep it secret for so long, and they have a reason to admit it now. Like, that's just as scary.
Well, this new report, they're not actually calling them UFOs anymore. The government has officially started calling them unexplained aerial phenomenon.
Yep, UAPs.
I don't know if they're doing that just to confuse people, but
Mhm.
they claim to be trying to collect as much data as they can and following to see where that data leads to. And they claim that they're going to share their findings whenever possible.
Oh, yeah, because they've been so honest with us in the past.
I know, right? But just the military alone, from June of 2021 until last month, the military alone has reported 144 sightings.
The military?
Like
Wow.
pilots, military pilots. They're calling them military
Damn.
aviators because obviously not all of them are fighter pilots. Some of them are cargo
Right.
pilots. I don't know, whatever the hell people fly in the military.
Military aviators have reported how many?
144 in like the last, what do we want to call it, 16 months?
Oh my goodness. In the last 16 months?
Yeah.
Freaking amazing. That's like almost 10 a month.
You want to hear something great?
Yes.
So the government looked into them and they attributed one incident to a large deflating balloon, but found the rest to be beyond the government's ability to explain without further analysis. What's this without further analysis? Oh, you're going to tell us everything. You're just going to stop looking so you don't have to tell us anything.
Right? Or they're going to continue looking and just keep it the rest of it silent. And why is everything always a balloon? We always say it was a weather balloon or swamp gas,
Can I just say, how many freaking weather balloons do we really use?
right? And why are they always causing these types of sightings? I mean, I've seen balloons in the air before, and they're pretty obviously balloons. Are these like experimental balloons? Do they look so much different from regular balloons?
Well, and here's the other thing I find hysterical is this report also talks about how some of them are just foreign spying and airborne trash. Dude, if you know it's foreign spying, why ain't you shooting that shit out of the sky? Okay.
Good point.
So you're just like, yeah, we're just letting people spy on us. You think it's aliens, but it's whoever.
It's whoever. We're just going to let them spy,
I don't want to pinpoint anybody, but
let you keep thinking it's aliens.
right? But another interesting fact that I found a report. This was a op-ed that was done by a professor of physics and astronomy at the University of Rochester. And part of this report, this kind of, I don't know how I feel about this. So they're saying that, yes, there are unidentified flying objects out there, but we have no proof,
Unidentified aerial phenomenon.
whatever, unidentified aerial phenomenon, but that we just because they exist and that they're out there, we have no proof that they are being manned by anything intelligent. So their argument is just because there's UFOs doesn't mean there's aliens. Well, who the hell is
Okay,
directing these things? Is this like a radio controlled car equivalent?
right?
Like so this report is trying to make the argument that, and I think it's just another way to try to confuse people now that they're declassifying stuff, that just because you see UFOs doesn't mean there's aliens. Now, I actually would like to know what some of our listeners' opinions are on this because you could say it's an interesting topic because could these be AI? Absolutely. We don't know. I haven't been on an alien ship. I don't know if it's AI.
Sure, could
But
be.
there is some studies that are suggesting that we have no business saying that just because there's UFOs is that there's aliens.
Well, that's true. I mean, unidentified aerial phenomenon doesn't necessarily mean a manned or alien spacecraft. It just means that it's something that happened in the air that we don't understand what it is yet. They're not necessarily saying all unidentified flying objects or unidentified aerial phenomenon. They don't necessarily have to be a manned anything. It could just be some sort of aerial phenomenon. It could be space trash. It could be some type of meteorite debris or man-made debris or as they said, a lot of it very well could be technology that we don't know, either ours or some other countries, or A lot of it could be spying. So they're just
Well,
kind of covering all bases.
and here's, speaking of countries spying and things of that nature, another interesting report that's come through recently, as we're all aware of the unfortunate war that's going on currently in the Ukraine, there have actually been recent reports of UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon, flying through the skies of Ukraine. They have been officially discredited by Ukraine's National Science Agency, but there are a lot of folks, including folks in the military that are in the Ukrainian military, as well as militaries from surrounding countries, that do believe that they are UAPs. This report was released in mid-September, so it's about maybe pushing 2 months old, but they describe a significant number of objects whose nature is not clear, including multiple so-called phantoms, which appeared completely black against the sky and seemed to zip through the atmosphere at up to 33,000 miles an hour, roughly twice as fast as one of those intercontinental ballistic missiles. So it couldn't
Wow.
have been a
Oh,
ballistic
shit.
missile from Russia or wherever,
Too
because it
fast.
was actually going at 33,000 miles an hour. Of course, the government's trying to say, oh, no, there's nothing out there.
Yeah,
But
that's
there
always their
are
first reaction.
Right, but there are some scientific communities and astronomical observation communities that do believe that there is some UFO activity currently happening over the Ukraine area.
I'm intrigued by that because somewhere in the recesses of my steel trap of a brain, I have a memory of reading about how UFO sightings and UAP sightings happen a lot around wartime, and even a lot of the old paintings and historical paintings we have, they'll have what looks like UFOs in the painting in the sky, like over battle scenes and that type of thing. I think I've heard before that it's a historical thing that UFO sighting seems to increase over battles and over war. But again, I don't have any basis for that right now. I'll have to look it up and see if that's just something my brain made up or if that's actually something I remember.
I mean, it's definitely an interesting addition to the latest rumblings about UFOs currently.
Yeah, for sure.
I have also heard that too, and it is kind of, what is it about wars that attract UFOs?
Yeah,
And
what's
what's
the
the
connection?
correlation? Yeah,
Hmm.
is it like, are they trying to see what we got? How
Right, right.
how crazy are these humans? How far are they willing to go?
Or
I
did
don't
they
know.
instigate it just to see what would happen? Kind of like a little kid shaking up an anthill.
Like I said, though, the Ukrainian government is dismissing it. So, who
Eh,
knows? But
yeah, our
also,
government dismissed it too. For how long?
right?
Who believes that anymore?
But also recently, like there's just so much been going on recently, and that's why I wanted to talk about this. There's been
Wild.
more than 40 UFO sightings reported in Idaho just this year alone. Um,
Idaho.
Idaho, like I don't
What?
even know what's up with Idaho, but
Why
so
are
far this
there
year, 40. And they're
40 UFOs in Idaho?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
I think some of our listeners live in Idaho. Have you guys seen any UFOs? Like, what's up with that?
So, and I have like a breakdown of a couple of cities. Boise, Idaho, 12 reports. Nampa,
Wow.
9. Idaho Falls, 3. Dalton Gardens, 2. Pocatello, 2. Idaho National Forest has had them. Like the something's going on in Idaho right now. So if you are in Idaho or in any of the surrounding states, if you have seen something, let us know, because there is something going on there right now.
Yeah, it
And I'm
seems like
curious.
it.
It's kind of like the zipping across the sky, the formation, the ominous formation of bright lights, kind of the typical UFO sighting things. But yeah, 40 in so far this year. Something's going on over there.
Something is heating up in the alien world or in our alien atmosphere. I don't know.
So this I thought was very interesting as well. Everybody wonders where NASA is in this game. Guess who just jumped on the bandwagon? Especially ironic because all these
Elon Musk?
no,
Oh, right,
NASA
right.
NASA has never been a part of the alien thing up till now, which is weird because they're the spaceship people.
They've probably been trying to stay out of it.
Not anymore. And it's kind of weird that now all these reports are coming out that now NASA's getting involved. But here's the thing with NASA, and this is where I think folks are going to get annoyed with some of these alien reports.
Why so?
Goes along like this data proof. So it's really weird that NASA's getting involved right now, especially with all these reports and stuff coming out, because NASA, they have this weird way. It's not weird, it's actually super good. They have what's called a standard of evidence.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
awesome.
things have to meet a specific standard of evidence to be proven yay or nay.
I love that.
So,
I'm all for that.
well, that's what I'm saying, but I think some UFO followers are going to be disappointed because there's a very strict standard of evidence that's going to be followed now that
Oh,
NASA's
sure, sure.
involved.
Some people might say that it's too strict.
Correct, correct. But I think the pros of having NASA involved is, yeah, they're kind of a government agency, but they're really still kind of third party, in my
Right.
opinion.
Yeah, hopefully they can stay open to the people while still maintaining that standard of evidence and being rigorous in their search.
Right, right. So there is going to be some things that may appear to be alien life and UFO and UAP in nature that NASA being involved is going to kind of stamp out just because they're very rigorous. And that's what we
Good.
want.
Yeah.
That's what we want. Um,
100%.
so I'm very happy that NASA's getting involved, but I am very interested in the timing because I feel like the timing coinciding with all of these reports getting declassified in the last couple of weeks is just, what's up, people? What's up?
Right. Yeah, that's so coincidental. I mean, the synchronicity with all of it is just so intriguing. I don't know what's going to come out in the next couple of years. I'm just with them admitting so much truth to so much of what for so long people said was absolute bunk, absolute hearsay.
Crazy talk.
What's up with Bob Lazar? Has anybody checked in with him? Because damn, all this stuff is really starting to, come true, so to speak.
Makes me want to go watch The Simpsons because let me tell you, if anybody's predicting shit right now, 110%, it is The Simpsons.
Yeah, they have been pretty spot on an awful lot of things. The Simpsons Oracle for sure.
But I definitely think it's something to keep an eye on as far as news stories. Stuff like this might get second, third page on your news websites, but keep up with this stuff, people, because they're trying to brush some stuff under the rug that we should know about. And they're trying to do things, like I said, with NASA on the up and up that we should know about.
Yeah, and it's been going on for so long, and like you, so much is happening right now.
And if you're in frickin' Idaho, we want to know if you've seen
Yeah,
anything,
I mean, what's up with the hot spot in Idaho? I'll have to see if I have to. Maybe I'll do some LA on the street interviews here this
right?
weekend. See if I can find if anyone has seen any other activity in LA.
And we don't generally talk about other countries a lot, but I talked about Ukraine. Mexico is ramping up again. Mexico, for some reason, has always kind of been a hot spot for UFO activities.
That whole area, that whole Southwest, Southern California, New Mexico, Mexico, that area is very popular.
But some of the stuff I was coming across in recent news shows that there's activity ramping up again in
Ooh.
Mexico. It's not just, I think sometimes you think just America. These UFO
No,
sightings are worldwide,
yeah, no,
man.
they're all over the world. Absolutely all over the world.
But because there's always been so much activity in Mexico, the fact that it's ramping up again is like, are they coming this time?
I'm pretty sure I heard that it's usually Americans that report UFO sightings, and I'm not sure if it's because it's a hot spot here or if we're just a
Big mouth.
large population of people who are more than willing to tell tales like that, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I would think that, if you're in a place where you are under, say, a dictatorship, for example, you might not be able to voice those experiences. You know what
Sure.
I'm saying?
And
Um,
I imagine in places like Great Britain or whatever, it's probably just not the done thing. I don't know.
well, us Americans, we're just kind of like, hey, we're just gonna say whatever. And there are people that are more subdued than us in this world.
It's true. We are kind of loud
but
and
there are
opinionated. So,
the sightings are ramping up, and one sighting in particular that I wanted to point out to you. You and I have always been fans of the Mayan ruins, the Aztec ruins,
oh, yeah.
all of the Central and South American pyramid sculptures.
Fascinating history.
There's been a bunch of sightings around those, the ones that are in
Really?
Mexico. And, depending on what you think, some folks think that some of those pyramids in Central and South America were created by aliens. So the
I
fact
have
that there's
heard that
alien
theory.
sightings near there currently is like, hey, what's
How
up?
fun. So
What's up?
interesting. Wow. That really blows my mind. I love these old sculptures, these old buildings, these like the mounds. I guess they're not really pyramids, but the building structures in that area and the pyramids in Egypt and all these places that are rumored to have alien influence. How cool that there's
You know what I
sightings
found
there.
interesting? If you look at a map that goes from Mexico to Canada, like if you look there's like that line, not necessarily the ridge of the Rockies, but to the if you're looking at the map, maybe to the left of the ridge of the Rockies, that line going from Mexico all the way up to say Idaho, there seems to be like a straight line of a lot of alien sightings through that alleyway going from
Kind of like a
Mexico up to that
corridor.
Canadian. Yeah. Is there a corridor? And if so, what is it about that area? Because I feel like, at least in the United States, there's more sightings there than, say, here on the East Coast.
Makes sense. I don't know. I'm curious. Again, I beseech our UFO expert listeners, let us know what have you heard about that strip? Is there something there? What's to it?
So I just wanted to talk about some top news stories in the UFO world, so not to consume the whole podcast. What do you got for us today, Layla? Because I could
Well,
talk forever about this.
oh my gosh, there's so much interesting historical things about UFOs, things happening right now with UFOs. We could consume several podcasts, and I'm sure we will, with UFO sightings.
Oh, yeah, we'll come back to it again at another time. Don't you worry, folks.
I am going to talk about probably the most haunted place in Riverside, California,
Ooh.
which is a place near and dear to my heart. It's called the Mission Inn. And the Mission Inn is absolutely gorgeous. I love this building. It takes up almost 2 city blocks.
Is it a
And
hotel?
it is. It's a hotel and it's a restaurant. It's also a museum, but they have a lot of artwork and a lot of artifacts there that you can wander around and look at, and they do tours. The place is a huge mishmash of styles. It started out in 1876. It was built prior to 1876. I'm not exactly sure when, but the original structure was a 12-room adobe boarding house. And it was purchased in 1880 by a gentleman named Frank Miller, who was the son of a famous architect called Christopher Miller. And he started adding to this 12-room adobe house with different wings and courtyards and
It seems to
gardens.
be a theme in California. People who start building a house and never stop building it. What's up with that?
I'm not sure. I had the very same thought while I was researching this. And then the place, of course, becomes haunted and has all these legends and rumors attached to it. So he continued until his death in 1935. He continued to add onto this hotel. And listen to this list of styles. So the house has Moorish revival architecture, Spanish colonial architecture, Spanish Gothic architecture. It also has all different like Gothic elements, such as like arched doorways and recessed artwork alcoves, and
I
it's
don't know how I feel about indecisive people.
there is a central garden that has 4 floors of a stunning spiral staircase, all of which is
Ooh.
open to the garden. At one time, I believe it was a monastery.
Can you
It was,
stay at this place currently?
yes,
So is this more like a bed and breakfast nowadays? Because it sounds like a house though to me.
it's huge. It is absolutely huge. And no, it's definitely a hotel. It's very imposing. It has these beautiful adobe walls and large gateways. There's a restaurant, there's an outdoor portion of the restaurant, and the food there is stunning. I highly
Ooh.
recommend. They'll make your guacamole for you, tableside. So good. Definitely recommend it.
So who's the ghosties there?
The ghosties there are definitely Frank and Alice Miller, who are the son and daughter of Christopher Miller, who was the original owner. And then his son Frank purchased it, and he's the one who added on to it. So Frank changed the name to the Mission Inn and again kept adding all these different styles. And he and his sister were known to live there their entire lives. One of the rooms is also called Aunt Alice's room, and it is rumored to be the most haunted room in the entire hotel.
Oh, makes me want to stay in it.
Oh, absolutely. This hotel has catacombs underneath it that traverse most of the city and are rumored to go all the way to Mount Rubidoux nearby and have a secret entrance. You used to be able to tour these catacombs that were underneath the hotel, and they had all these different rooms that were kind of designed in different styles. There was an Oriental room. There was a two Native American rooms, one designed to look like a kiva, one designed to look like a hogan.
Oh, wow.
There was a couple different Catholic inspired rooms down in these catacombs, one called a baptistry, and they had full wax figures. And people have reported many, many ghosts in this area, shadow people down in this area. They used to give tours, and I think there's still a slight chance. I'm going to try and get one. There's still a slight chance you can get tours, but they've been mostly closed off to the public. But there are rumors that there were many suicides and even a murder down in those catacombs.
Now, why did he build all these catacombs and why was everything like of such different styles? Is there a rhyme or reason to any of this?
Not really. There's a lot of urban legends about it. They say that the construction of the catacombs themselves began well after the construction of the hotel, around 1910, and continued for about 7 years. They say that he began building them with, there's a place called the Cloister Music Room that was built nearby. And so he started building these tunnels to kind of connect with this cloister museum.
Uh-huh.
And also, the idea was to bring more attention back to the monastery in the area. So a lot of the catacombs would connect to the monastery as well. And so the intention was to kind of like capitalize on the area's Catholic influence and the resurgence of interest in like the Catholic missions and the old missions in the area.
Gotcha.
The hotel was originally named the Glenwood, but after he did all the huge renovations, it was then called the Glenwood Mission, again, trying to capitalize on that resurgence of the Catholic mission interest. And then eventually they dropped Glenwood and just kept the Mission Inn. And so there were 12 rooms in the catacombs. And they say that when you go down into these catacombs, a lot of electronics will stop working. And you're often told you have to bring a flashlight with you to go on the tours. And I did read several firsthand accounts of people going down in there when they would talk about as soon as they would descend the stairwell, their battery operated flashlight would start flickering and cease to work, even if they knew they
Yeah,
had.
but that could have to do with the rock in the area and not necessarily anything paranormal.
I would say that would have a lot to do with like if you couldn't get cell phone reception, but like a battery powered flashlight, would that affect that too? I don't know.
Well, I don't know about the battery powered flashlight, but the cell phone I get.
Yeah, absolutely. So Frank and Alice are rumored to haunt the entire hotel, but in particular the fourth floor. And Frank did have rooms on the fourth floor, and his room is currently blocked off. No one can rent that room. But room 215, which is a room that Alice is rumored to have stayed in every time that she went there, that room you can stay in, and that is the second most haunted room in the hotel, other than Frank's. So you can definitely stay in that room. That's available. And people report cold spots, and they'll often hear Alice singing. If you walk through the hotel, you might hear a disembodied voice singing.
Now, did they die in the hotel?
I haven't found that. I have heard a couple people say that they both died in the hotel, but I can't confirm that. I don't know for sure.
But it could just be a matter of because it was theirs and all of that, that even if they did not die there, they could have just gone back home kind of thing.
Exactly. They definitely spent their entire lives there. Alice, they both had rooms there that they lived in and stayed there. So again, even if they didn't die there, you're absolutely right because they put so much of themselves into this building.
So it's kind of more like happy haunting. It's not anything necessarily malevolent.
Well, I don't know because
Oh,
all of the accounts of people that go there, as soon as you walk up to it, there's that whole horror movie vibe. It's
Oh,
stunningly beautiful. I just get kind of, when I go there, I just kind of get a sense of old California. It's the adobe walls and the flowers and the archways and the stone floors and
that different time period.
yeah, but the place, it's not just the architecture that's a mishmash of styles. It's also the artwork. And I mean, you'll walk down a hallway that's decorated in adobe and wrought iron and roses, and then there's like a bust of Theodore Roosevelt. It's just random art in different places because they
That's
were just
weird.
right. They collected all sorts of different things. And also, another interesting thing I found about this place is that Anne Rice, the author Anne Rice, who wrote Interview with the Vampire, loved the Mission Inn, so much so that she was staying in one of the suites called the Amistad Suite. And she used and she wrote one of her books there. Actually, two of her books she set in the Mission Inn.
Oh,
So while Anne Rice stayed at this suite, she came up with the book of Love and Evil, which is the second in the Songs of the Seraphim series, and it's set in the Mission Inn in Riverside, California. And she's quoted as saying she spent some time in this room that has a huge like cupola ceiling. And as she looked up at the beautiful paintings on that cupola, she had this whole idea of an angel visiting a hitman that she wanted to set the series in that hotel. Interestingly enough, the woman who painted that room, an artist named Tiffany Brooks, and she painted quite a few of the murals in the Mission Inn. And when she painted the mural on the ceiling in the Amistad room, she was reading Anne Rice's series, The Witching Hour. Kind of an interesting little coincidence there.
yeah.
People are always reporting seeing ghosts and shadow people. Also, there was Craig Owens is an author and photographer, and he wrote a book. And he went to all these different haunted places in Southern California and took pictures of people kind of in period dress at these places. He describes himself as a, quote, reluctant believer in the paranormal. He's not really a ghost chaser. He just likes these places more for the look and the vibe. So he says that while he was doing photographs at the Mission Inn, that's kind of what made him a believer in ghosts. While he was taking photographs of one of his models, he says he saw a shadow person. So in 2009, he was doing his photographs here. He says he saw what looked like an inky black two-dimensional figure that was roughly 5'2", wearing like the cowl of a cloak over their head. As soon as he saw it and it like noticed that he saw it, it like darted around a corner and there was no one there. And it freaked him out so much that he had to sleep with the lights on for like a year. And he's not a ghost believer, but he saw that shadow person in the Mission Inn. Let's see, Sam and Colby, the guys who go on a lot of different.
Oh, yeah. I love those guys.
Yeah, they went to the Mission Inn and they had some interesting things happen to them, including while they were asking for ghosts or spirits to come around, they had lights in the room turn on and off, and different things in the room get moved around on them. Anyone who goes there, they often get a bad vibe. As beautiful as the place is, people very often will describe it as like the room itself doesn't want them there. Like the place doesn't want them to be there. Others
I
will
wonder if
say,
the land is haunted. You know how we've come across those land hauntings?
sure, I wonder what was there before that Adobe bed and breakfast was there, but who knows what could have been there at that time. There's a one woman named Angelica. She said that when she stayed there, she felt like someone was spying on her and following her the entire time she stayed there. And she would hear footsteps come across the floor right up to her. And this is a common thing that I've heard. People say they'll be standing in the hallway and it'll sound like someone is walking down the hallway towards them and even past them. And they'll feel the cold wind as the steps go by them, but there's no one there. There's also a recording. Some people were doing an interview in one of the rooms of the hotel. And after they stopped the interview, they still had the cameras rolling. And you can distinctly hear someone in high heels walk across the room, even though no one's moving.
Oh, wow.
People think that it's the brother and sister, Frank and Alice, walking around the house, but they're not sure who the shadow people are. So I wonder, like you said, if there was something there before the Adobe building and the Mission Inn were built there.
Well, that was also built right after the California Gold Rush time. So, you don't know what or who was occupying that area.
Exactly. And they do say, of course, that there is a portal there. They're not sure where it's a portal to, but it's rumored to be at the door to Aunt Alice's room. People will feel that that is a portal to some other dimension.
I love portals, especially portals to hell.
That's
They're
right.
my favorite.
This is one of, I cannot wait. I'm going to go there on a tour here in the next, unfortunately, not before this episode goes out, but I'll get some pictures to you for the Instagram. But I'm going to go there and see if I can catch some orb photos because everyone loves to show their orb photos from this place. It is,
You love orb photos. What are you talking about?
I do, and I'm super excited to try and catch some of myself, but not all over the hotel, just in the areas where people report seeing these ghosts and shadow people and feeling the cold spots and the people watching them. Those places, people take photographs there. Those are the ones that seem to have, in particular, bright blue orbs in those areas. So I'm hoping to see if I can catch some myself. There are also several pictures where people will see the ghost of a girl on the spiral staircase. And a woman named Alicia says that she was in a restroom and the door locked on her. And she thought it was her friends playing a prank, but none of them had locked her in the bathroom. It had locked by itself. And it's, again, common for people to see doors opening and closing, including Sam and Colby and their group of friends. They also saw a door open by itself.
I love that shit. I really do.
Right? But Alicia has a very clear picture of a ghost girl on the spiral staircase that they didn't notice till they got home. Another woman named Lynette went to the bathroom with her friends, and they weren't staying there. They were just on a tour, and they were trying to see if they could, find anything creepy on any of the floors. She says while she was waiting for her friends to use the restroom, all of a sudden it got super cold where she was standing to the point where every single hair on her body stood on end and she got goosebumps and chills. She says she felt like she was on a roller coaster. You know that feeling you get when your like stomach drops out and you kind of break out in a sweat? So she kind of got that feeling and she heard someone walk up to her and she thought it was her friends, but there was no one there. And then she says standing across the room next to the red velvet curtains was the figure of a man, just a shadow man, about 5'10", and very, very masculine, but very angry. She said she did not get a good vibe from him at all. And they kind of stared at each other for a long time. And the shadow man started shaking his head no, and then disappeared. Right after that, her friends came back and they're like, hey, let's go to the fourth floor and do some ghost hunting. And
No.
she's like, nope, we're out. We
No.
were distinctly told no, we are out. Yeah. So they were
Listen to the ghosties.
right. She says, we are out of here. We're not staying. The ghost told me no. So yeah, I don't think I would go if a shadow person told me no. But yeah, people are always, they feel like they're being pushed. They feel ghostly hands. But the singing and the cold spots and the seeing shadow people is super, super common there. So I can't wait to see if I get any ghost pictures or orb photos when I go.
Definitely update us. And if you do get any of those pictures, send them to me and I'll upload them to Instagram for everyone to see.
Absolutely. And I'm so sad that the catacombs underneath are closed. I really want to try and get a tour if at all possible. But from what I understand, they're mostly closed. The rumor is because there's too many dead bodies and too many suicides and murders happen down there.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't substantiate any of that. The public notice that was given is that too much dampness had caused it to be unsafe. So we'll see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But kind of an interesting, historic place. And like you said, I also had the idea of like, what is it with California and these haunted places and the weird fixation on continuous building? Like, what's up with that?
Crazy, crazy.
Right? So wild, so wild. Maybe these ghosts in California are like, you must continue to build or I will haunt you.
Forever.
And then when they pass away and the building stops, the hauntings start happening.
Right?
So there you go. That's our tale of the UFOs going around the USA and also the very haunted Mission Inn in Riverside, California. Tell us what you think of this week's episode 42. Send us an email at thestonedwitcheshour@gmail.com or check out Chelle's amazing tarot cards and some of our updates on our Instagram at Stoned Witches Hour.
I'd just like to point out, so doing this, I'm looking into this alien stuff, and I happened across that Star Trek Next Generation tarot deck Like how appropriate, how coincidental. I'm looking into aliens and I find a Star Trek deck.
Super appropriate. Oh my goodness.
You know, it's like the perfect Trekkie deck. If you are a Trekkie into tarot cards, I happened to go into the store one day and they're like, "Oh yeah, we just got this shipment this morning." I'm like, "Ooh, and I'll take one."
Yeah, right.
So it is new, but it's based on Star Trek Next Generation. It's a must-have, tarot collectors. Must have.
Well, speaking of tarot cards and AI, can I share my screen with you and show you the tarot deck that I've been working on?
Yes.
So it's just the major arcana so far. So these are just the rough ones.
Ooh, I love that.
This is the Fool, and this
Ooh,
is
I love that.
the Magician,
Oh my God, I love that.
the High Priestess.
I love that. Love,
So yeah, those are all AI generated.
love, love, love. Oh my God.
So I still have more to do, but can you believe that? I
That's
mean,
freaking awesome.
wild, right?
Freaking awesome.
So if you saw as a tarot collector, if you saw those cards, like,
Buying.
yeah, awesome, awesome. I want to print some out and have you do a tarot reading with them and tell me how they feel once I get the whole deck done.
Okay.
Awesome.
I love them. They're gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm still working on them as I get time. And as you know, I never have time. So they're a work in progress.
Nice.
So thank you. I want to get your feedback because you are the tarot queen.
Ah, it's an addiction. It's an
I read
addiction.
I read a lot of cards. You have a lot of cards and they're amazing. And
I do. And the Star Trek deck, like I thought I came across gold with that Garbage Pail Kid deck, but this Star Trek deck, I was like, whoa.
so fun.
It's not based on the original, so there's no Captain Kirk in it, but because it's Next Generation, there is a spot card.
The next generation is my jam. I love
Yeah.
them so
Yeah.
much.
I mean, there's a whole soup based on the Klingons. I mean, come on now.
How
Come on
fun. Oh
now.
my gosh. I got to check it out for sure.
Great deck. So yeah, we're gonna continue on our different deck every week journey.
And before we close out this episode, I do have to send a shout out to one of our listeners. I have to say thank you, Kat. You are a doll. I adore you. I have a nice freshly packed bowl right here that I'm going to spark up in just a second in your honor. But Kat, our lovely listener, did reach out to me and let me know that I had messed up the Samhain audio and had put up the previous episode, the final Salem episode instead. So thank you for the heads up, Kat. I really appreciate it. Sorry that it had to be a mess up that invited you to contact us for the first time, but
But it got you a shout out, Kat.
that's right. So thank you. And this bowl's for you.
I like that. This bowl's for you. Puff puff.
Right? And it's good shit too. Thanks, Kat. Anyway, so if you notice something that we messed up or something that we did great or something that you want us to talk about, please email us like Kat did at thestonedwitcheshour@gmail.com.
And we want your alien stories, especially if you live in Idaho. Get that shit to me now, people.
Yeah, and if you've ever heard of this pumpkin-headed cryptid in Riverside, tell me.
Oh my God, yeah.
By the time you hear this, I will have already been to the crossroads where it was sighted, so don't worry about it.
If this is the last episode you ever hear, folks, it's because Layla was eaten by the pumpkin cryptid.
Ew, no, I hope not. And no.
And I'm not technologically sound enough to post the episodes.
But I am going to bring our homemade Ouija board and fuck around and find out yet again and see if I can contact the ghost of this cryptid, find out what happened to it. Tune in
Can't
to
wait.
episode. So see us next week at episode 43 of the Stoned Witches Hour, 4:20 a.m. on Wednesday. We'll see you then.
Stay high and spooky.